Hey there, CJ Math students, and welcome to Note 2.2. So we're going to try and operate with rational numbers involving real-world situations, and I'm going to try and talk a lot about what I did this summer and over the past couple of weekends. So here we go. Let's read. 3 weeks ago, Mr. Mason drove to Marquette, Michigan, not the University of Marquette. That's in Wisconsin, like down here. Marquette, Michigan, all the way up here for a wedding. Imagine the following. The drive is 6 3/4 hours long. Mr. Mason drove with his friends and got to sleep for 3 1/3 hours during the drive. How long was Mr. Mason awake? So let's think, let's plan, and let's solve. So first of all, if we think about this, we want to get our foot in the door. I know there's just kind of this quick thing to number pluck and say, all right, I see a 6 3/4 and 3 1/3, but really you're asking yourself, what are we really trying to do? And here we're trying to say, all right, how long is Mr. Mason awake during the drive? So if the drive is 6 3/4 hours long and he gets to sleep 3 1/3, then that means, okay, so for the rest of the time he's awake. So I need to go ahead and find out the difference between those two. So I want to do 6 3/4 minus 3 1/3. All right, so obviously we cannot do this problem just yet because we have denominators that are unlike. So if you put your finger on the 3, your finger on the 4 on your reference sheet and go across, you'll see that their least common multiple is 12. So times 4 on top and bottom here, times 3 on top and bottom here. And so your new fraction becomes 6 9/12 minus 3 4/12. So now we can go ahead and subtract because I have common denominators. So 9 minus 4 is 5. Keep the denominator, and a 6 minus 3 is 3. So for 3 5/12 of an hour, Mr. Mason was awake. Let's move on to the next one. So this is Notre Dame Stadium. Normally, it's filled with blue and gold, but as you can see, there's a whole bunch of red here. I was here 2 weekends ago to watch Notre Dame, ND, lose to Georgia. It was really sad. It was a home game for ND, but there was tons of Georgia fans wearing red. It was kind of embarrassing how many there were. So imagine the following. 3/7 of the fans in the stadium cheered for Notre Dame, ND. And 2/5 of the fans in the stadium cheered for Georgia, UGA. As a fraction, how many more fans cheered for ND? It wasn't very many. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of red there, right? All right, so let's think. Again, how many more? If you go back up to the first one, it was how much more, or how long was Mr. Mason awake? All right, how many more were, again, what's the thing that we're actually trying to solve for? And we're trying to find, again, a difference, how many more, between Notre Dame and Georgia. So Notre Dame was 3/7, and Georgia was 2/5. So again, they have different denominators, so I can't just subtract. I want to put my finger on the 7, finger on the 5, go across. 35 is obviously the common multiple, least common multiple. So times 7 there and times 5 on top. So what do I get? I get 15 over 35 minus 14 over 35. And my answer happens to be 1 over 35. So just the slightest bit, a very small fraction, very small percentage, if you were thinking of a different rational number as well, of fans were there to cheer for Notre Dame. And it's true. I mean, there's a ton of Georgia fans there. And they won the game, so they went home happy. I, on the other hand, went to Boston College. But I like Notre Dame football. BC lost to Notre Dame 49-20 this weekend. There are some big BC football players, like number 77. He's a big guy. He's 6'7". Let's pretend we're going to write that as 6 feet and then 7 out of 12 because they're 12 inches in a foot. So 6 7/12. Number 82, he's not so tall. As you can see, he's only 5'8". Let's pretend we write his fraction as 5 5/6. How much taller is number 77 than number 82? So again, how much taller? We're trying to find a difference, right, between this guy and 82, right? So we've got our big guy who's 6 7/12, and our little guy, subtracting him, who's 5 5/6, right? So common denominator, put your finger on 6. Sorry, common multiple, put your finger on 6, finger on 12, go across. 12 is the common multiple, so I do nothing with this one, and go times 2 on this one, all right? So I get 6 7/12 minus 5 10/12. Uh-oh, wait a second. This is difficult. I can't do 7 minus 10 because 7 is smaller then 10. So what do? I borrow a whole from my whole number here, and the amount of wholes I'm going to borrow is the denominator here. So really this can be broken up into 5 plus 12 over 12 plus 7 over 12. Where did I get the 12 over 12? Well, that's just one whole, right? And if I did 5 plus 1, it gets 6. So I really haven't changed anything about that number. And so really when I add these two together, since they have the same denominator, I can do 5 and 19 over 12. That's an improper fraction, minus this 5 and 10 over 12. And when I do that subtraction, I get 9 over 12, or if I simplify that, divide by 3, right? This player is 3/4 of a foot taller than number 82. So 77, number 77 is 3/4 of a foot taller than number 82. So I think you should be able to figure that out. If a foot is 12 inches, what is 3/4 of 12? So 3/4 of 12. Another way you can think about it, 3/4, 0.75 of 12, right? So you could either do 3/4 times 12 over 1 and solve it that way, or do 0.75 times 12. Put your answer to that right there. I'll check it on your notes. Okay? That's the end of part 1.